This story goes way back when I was Chalmers and Brother Reed was me. It was Chalmers' birthday, May 22nd. I called his mom my ex-wife, Maura Tierney. Divorce, that's right, we're going there. It's the fearless 90s and nothing's taboo. She was like, "What do you want, Brother Reed?" And I was like, "I want to talk to my Chalmers." She huffed and gave the phone to Chalmers.
"Brother Reed, will you be at my birthday party tonight? The cool kids will be there. Quinky, Disher, Danzig, Poopsie, Big John John, Little John John, Kipper, even Army."
"Oh, sport, I'm gonna be there tonight." This time, I'm not lying. Nuh-uh. I just gotta win the trial of the century. And as soon as that's done, I'm there with bells on Bobby Brown. I would never lie to you.
"I love you, Brother Reed."
I love you. It's true, the church and Crow Industries were under a big boy class action lawsuit. Literally a class action lawsuit for big boys, alleging that Crow caused gigantism in Boulderous beverage imbibing baby boys. And who was the lawyer? Me! "Objection, Your Honor!" I screamed later that night, right at the climax of the trial. "The defense attorney is flirting with me." It was very Ally McBeal. "Overruled, Mr. Brother," the judge told me. "But more importantly, aren't you supposed to be at Chalmers' birthday party?" I slapped my cheeks. Mamma mia! I hightailed it out of there. My lawyer boss was yelling at me. "What's it gonna be, brother? Your job or your Chalmers? I'll get back to you." I said, my scream getting tinier as I ran away. It didn't matter. At Maura Tierney's house, Chalmers already sat before his cake, candles all a-flicker. He was looking everywhere, but in every corner, no Brother Reed. His waxy little face was dribbling with tears, and Maura Tierney was like, "Wait till I tell Carrie Elwes about this." She told Chalmers, "Make a wish." And that Chalmers, "Damn that rotten little corker." You know what he said?
"I wish Brother Reed can't lie anymore."
Birthday magic whooshed, birthday magic whizzed, kapow, zip, zip, for he's a jolly good fellow. I was roaring down the highway in my convertible when I felt a strange tingle come over me. Did someone just make a wish? I wondered. Just then, a cop pulled me over for speeding. Uh-oh! He was like, "Excuse me, sir, do you know how fast you were going?" And I was like, "The story's gonna get ya." He took off his aviators. "What did you just say?" Gosh, what did I just say? But before I could even ponder, the hospital switched your father's brain pills for steroids, and he's gonna bust into your home super confused and super strong. He's gonna think it's 1971 and you're 3 years old. Your elderly father is gonna give you a bath, and nothing you say or do will convince him otherwise. I clapped my hands over my mouth. Also, I was driving 52.2 miles per hour. I clapped my mouth again. The cop looked furious, but before he could say anything, ring, ring, he pulled out a big cellular phone. How modern. He said, "Hello?" "Oh no, it's hospital? What do you mean you can't find my father?" 2 minutes later, I crashed my convertible into Maura Tierney's garage. I stumbled out of the smoking wreckage and pounded on the door. Drums! Drums! And who should open the door? Carrie Elwes. And what precisely do you think you're doing here at this particular hour? He scoffed Britishly. I ducked between his legs and ran down the hall. Hey, Carrie shouted. Hey, he tricked me! I opened Chalms's door and found him sitting on his bed, still wearing his party hat, cheeks wet. Chalms, when you blew out your birthday candles, did you wish I couldn't lie? I clapped my hands over my mouth again. He looked at me, his little hazy cheeks all woody, and he said,
Why did you kill?
Because it's true, Chalms. Your wish came true. He just shook his head.
I don't believe you.
Then I'll prove it. Ask me anything, and I'll only say the truth.
Okay. Why did Maura Tierney divorce you?
She wanted to pursue acting. Also, I made love to a tree. I clapped my hands over my mouth.
If I make a silly face, will it get stuck forever?
No. And actually, some people make good money doing that, or they spend a decade pursuing it until they realize they just don't have that it factor, and then they give up and start a super niche podcast instead. I clap my hands over my mouth.
Is Santa Claus real?
And that's when I said the thing that got me in trouble. No. At that very moment, a million miles away in the North Pole, an alarm went off. And not just any alarm, the big one. All the elves were shaken in their curly booties as footsteps thundered to the lead surveillance desk.
Ho, ho, no! Is that what I think it is?
I'm afraid so, Santa.
The top elf gulped.
A level 3 breach. Someone just told a little boy that Santa isn't real.
Let's fast forward through my comedic antics during the rest of the trial, where I, a lawyer, couldn't tell a lie. It's the 90s, and lawyers, your card is up. It was late that night. I was tucking Chalms into bed, Maura Tierney at my side, wearing her old wedding ring. Carrie Elwes was in the hospital, recovering from burns and shrapnel.
See, Brother Reed,
Chalms said,
sometimes telling the truth is A-okay.
I kissed my fingers to Maura Tierney's hand and tickled my lips on Chalms's forehead. Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe the truth is all we really need.
Not for me!
Shouted a mysterious, twinkling voice behind us. A shadowy figure stood in front of the fireplace. I could just make out his massive boots, a nose like a cherry, and a big beard?
Some lies
He said, stepping into the light, revealing rosy cheeks.
need to be told.
Chalms gasped for air.
Santa Claus.
That's right.
He said, grasping Chalms about the shoulders.
When I got word that you no longer believed in me, I had to race down here and set things right.
Chalms just shook his little old head.
But if Brother Reed can only tell the truth, and you are real, then how did...
My brain! I screamed. I fell to the ground in spasms. My teeth clattered. I screamed and howled and barked and kicked. What's happening? Screamed Maura Tierney.
It's a paradox split.
Santa shouted.
In 15 minutes, his brain will split in half, then pop like a tomato in a toddler's mouth. Every time I reveal myself, there's a chance it can happen, especially if someone is wish-bound to tell the truth. To explain further, it's true, I don't exist. But when children believe in me despite the truth, then I become real.
My spasms worsened. My body started to jolt and buckle, bones popping and fingers locking. There has to be a way to save him, right? Please! Maura Tierney grabbed Santa by his lapels. I can't lose him again. I screamed. Santa's head fell in despair.
Yes, I'm afraid there's a way.
Santa's pickup truck rumbled to a stop in front of the steel plant.
Get him out of the truck bed.
Santa grunted. Chalmers, Santa, and Maura Tierney unloaded me. I was tied to a pallet, foaming at the mouth, barking like a dog, woof woof. Maura Tierney could barely look at me, and Santa was about to cry. They dragged me to a platform dangling over a giant vat of melting steel. The heat was immense. Though my brain was nearly ripped in half, I could still feel my whittle stink pucker up like a raisin.
Don't worry,
Santa said, petting me with a gloved hand.
Your pain will be over soon.
Chalmers saw the way Santa was looking at me, then at the molten steel. When Santa grabbed the chains, Chalmers began to plead.
No, you can't.
Santa shook his head, suddenly furious.
This is the only way.
But you can't kill Brother Reed. I love him.
Santa went silent. His shoulders slumped.
The chains aren't for Brother Reed. They're for me.
Maura Tierney and Chalmers clapped their hands over their mouths. But you're Santa. You can't die. Santa clapped a hand over his mouth, but slowly, so it seemed morose.
It's because I'm Santa that I'm prepared to die. I've given gifts my whole life. Isn't it fitting that my last gift is my own life?
Chalmers was crying now, stroking Santa's beard.
Santa. Santa, no, Santa, no.
Stop it! Stop it, all of you!
He shouted.
This is hard enough as it is, as long as I exist.
He pointed at me, my skull expanding like a meat balloon.
He will die. It's the only way to undo the paradox.
He started crying.
It's the only way.
He walked over and wrapped his arm in the chains. He handed a big red button to Maura Tierney.
My programming won't let me self-destruct. It has to be you.
Then he turned to me, big BR.
My death will result in a tremendous release of magic, enough to grant one wish. Brother Reed, it's only right this wish falls to you. Tell us all now, what is your wish?
My brain was rending, skull swelling, yet still I managed to make a wish. I wish to lie again. I took a deep breath.
And also to find $50 in my pocket. So be it,
Santa declared.
Maura Tierney, I'm ready.
She saluted him, then pressed the big red button. With a clang of gears, the chains began to move, lowering Santa to the steaming metal below. Santa's feet hit the molten steel.
Ho, ho, ho! Ah! Ho, ho! Ah!
He screamed and screamed, a thumbs up raised to Chalmers as his jolly red jumpsuit erupted in flame. Ah! 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 His whole body sank into liquid metal. He wailed, sloshing in the fire as his body morphed and twisted into the shape of every famous actor who ever played him. Ed Asner, Paul Giamatti, and of course, Tim Allen. Chalmers and Maura Tierney watched him burn until he fell apart to globs, and then nothing. They jumped when I spoke up. He did it, I said, rubbing my head where the hemispheres had re-merged. He saved me. Chalmers gave me a big hug.
Did your wish come true? Can you split the 50 with me?
I placed a hand into my pocket and felt the crinkle of a stiff $50 bill. Sorry, pal, I said, grinning into Chalmers' gullible eyes. It didn't come true. It was the best summer of my life.
My whole life, I've wanted to be big, but not too big, just a little bigger. You'll hit a growth spurt, I'd tell myself as a kid. But as the years went on, the chances of me hitting a growth spurt shrunk and shrunk. The only thing that was growing was my self-loathing and a small tumor in my pituitary glands that would eventually do me in. But that's a story for another day. A few weeks ago, I was feeling real lousy, so I went to the soda fountain after church. I went up to the soda jerk and I says, how's about a cherry crow-crowa? Light on the grenadine, I'm watching my sugar. I gave the soda jerk my famous wink, but he just scowled. I tried again. Hey, Buster. How's about a... I heard ya, he barked. In one deliberate movement, he pointed to a sign on the cash register. In big block letters it said, "No shrimps allowed." And then underneath it, in very nice cursive, it said, "You gotta be just a little big." Ain't I big enough? I'm a 35-year-old man, I cried. The soda jerk, acting like he was the most popular guy in town or something, rubbed his fists on his cheeks and went, "Boo-hoo," pretending like he was crying like a baby, see? Before I knew it, the soda fountain was filled with rude teens in leather bomber jackets and poodle skirts, laughing and cracking wise. I'll be back. I'll show you. I'll show all of you, you dang smart Alex, I cried. Their laughter followed me as I left. Gosh darn, I was sick of it. How many times had I gotten on a plane with a first-class ticket, only for the flight attendant to tell me, "Nuh-uh, you gotta sit at the kids' table in the back"? How many more times did I have to go to Six Flags on a nice summer day with my bestest friend in the whole wide world, Brother Reed, only to have the mean teenager at the lazy river ride make me wear swimmies so, quote, I didn't drown like a little baby. Ugh. How many times did I have to get the absolute shit kicked out of me by an entire bus of high school baseball players? Psh, would there be no end? Even Brother Reed, who I said was my bestest friend in the whole wide world forever and ever, couldn't make me feel better. Every Thursday night at our weekly sleepover, drunk on Twizzlers and caramel popcorn, I'd cry my eyes out in front of him. Story bless him, he'd run out of things to say to make me feel better. He would just comb my hair as I slept on the bottom bunk and whisper, "You're a fresh boy, true." Phooey! I shouted as I spat and kicked the ground. Immediately, my cheeks burned with guilt for swearing in public. But when I looked around, no one was there. In fact, the entire boardwalk was empty. That's right, I was walking on a boardwalk, see? It was silent, except for the waves tinkling under the ice. No, not tinkling like they were pissing. I mean making a noise like wind chimes. Boop, 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 went a tinny noise, breaking the gentle rolling of the pissing waves. I turned towards the sound and saw a lone carnival arcade game. It turned on. It was real old, just a glass box on a stand, illuminated on the outside with Edison bulbs. Inside the glass case was an animatronic mannequin with a pointy beard and a tight hat behind a crystal ball. It was culturally appropriating something, but I wasn't sure what. Maybe kind of uncomfortable, though. I went up to get a closer look and realized it wasn't plugged into nothing. What a compelling storytelling device, I whispered. The mannequin in the case shook and in a staticky voice said, "Make a wish." I didn't have to think twice. I wish I was bigger, but just a little, I cried. The lights on the machine started flashing like crazy. The game shook back and forth, creaking on the boardwalk, until it went phew, 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 and settled down. Then, a small piece of paper came out of it.
Your wish is granted,
It said. My stomach rumbled and my skin felt tight. The ground was spongy as I wobbled back and forth. I leaned forward and a violent torrent of brown vomit poured out of me. I spat and regained my composure, then looked at the top of my hands. They were kinda hairy, like a dad's hands. I was shocked to see I was wearing a khaki rain jacket. At my feet was a briefcase. I took out my makeup mirror. Egads! I had transformed into a man of at least 41 years, complete with a mustache and streaks of gray at my temples. I looked just a little bigger, like one of the businessman dads I've been jealous of my whole life. The ones who are just a little bigger than me. What was I gonna do with this new power? Get a job as an insurance adjuster? Wear a dirty hoodie on weekends and clean the gutters? Shout at my kids, "Turn off the goddamn lights when you leave the room!" The world was at my fingertips. Then an idea came to me. Oh, Pastor Andrew, you diabolical motherfucker. But the arcade machine was turned off. So, I plugged it back in. Easy fix. I got another wish, see? I said. The machine shook to life, and the mannequin nodded. I wish I had a name tag that said boss on it. That's right, B-O-S-S. The machine shook. It spat out a piece of paper that said, "Are you sure? You only get 3 wishes. You can, wish for anything." "Shut up," I says. Another piece of paper came out that desperately said, "Look, sir, I don't want no trouble." I heard a pop, and a sticky name tag was attached to my jacket. My plan was nearly complete. I put it all together in my head on the way to the soda fountain. First, I'd walk in and clap my hands 3 times, really fast. Everyone would turn around, sneering and whatnot, wondering what the ruckus was. They'd all fall silent when I'd point to my name tag. The guy with a briefcase, mustache, thinning hair, and a khaki jacket? You better believe he's the boss. That would shut him up real good, see? Then I'd march over to the soda jerk and say, "Things are gonna change around here." And I'd rip the sign off the register, the sign that said "No shrimps allowed." Kids and short men would spill into the soda shop, finally ordered the sodas they've only dreamed about, but were denied. The soda jerk would have no choice but to serve them, especially on account of me looking over his shoulder. And at the end of what would turn out to be the soda fountain's most profitable day since the crash of the Twin Towers, I'd put my hand on the soda jerk's shoulder and say, "You're fucking fired, loser, eat shit." He'd probably go crazy and end up in jail or dead. I was rubbing my hands together like a supervillain when I walked past the church of this story. Brother Reed was out front playing wiffle ball by himself. He'd lost weight. His hair was matted. He was crying. Egads! It was Thursday night, our sleepover night. I had totally forgotten. To make matters worse, I hadn't talked to him in almost 3 hours. which was the equivalent of 3,000 hours in best friend time, or standard BFT. Ugh, metric BFT if you're in quote-unquote Canada. Why was I getting so down on myself about not being just a little bigger? I had a best friend in the whole wide world forever and ever who loved me just as I was. Ugh, jeepers creepers, I swore venomously. I nearly missed our sleepover. And for what? So I could show a meanie Stevie soda jerk he couldn't push me around no more? Ugh. I hung my head in shame and vowed then and there to go back and make things right. But before I went back to the boardwalk, I ran to the soda fountain, put some benches in front of the door to block the only exit, and burned it to the fucking ground. The sun was setting as I went up to the arcade game. Boop, 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 boop. A piece of paper curled out. "Look, mister, I gave you your wishes fair and square," it said. "Ha ha ha ha, I know," I screamed insanely. I want to go back to the way things were. I don't want to be bigger anymore. The machine whirred and whirred. The mannequin inside shrieked, and a million ghosts and demons came out of his mouth, and he melted and shit. His eyes popped. It was really fucked up and pretty scary. I think it was possessed by the devil, the Christian devil. But before it melted to the ground, a tiny piece of paper came out. Okay, that's your final wish. Enough already," it said. Then the game fell into the fiery center of the earth, where dead bad guys and terrorists and pro-life activists live. My knees wobbled, and I lurched forward and vomited a torrent of brown juice. When I came to, I was 35 again. Normal hands, no mustache, hair that was thinning but not gray except for here and there, but it was like that before I got a little bit bigger. No notices. And as a cherry on top, I was wearing the cape that I'd had on all day before I got a little bigger. On the back it said, "Best Friends." I got a sleepover to get to, I said to the smoking hole in the ground. Then I blew on my secret best friend ring and flew into the sky to the Story Center to see Brother Reed and watch VHS tapes and eat Reese's Pieces and stay up late gossiping. And it was the best summer of my life.
James Leanne Wish entered this world during a Texas thunderstorm on New Year's Eve, 1965. He was born into a prominent Massachusetts family. Still, the only record of his birth was the front page of his father's hometown newspaper, the Tyler Morning Telegraph, which announced James Wish's birth under the thick black headline that read, "Cattle Struck Down by God." The hospital of his birth, St. Boston's, was set on fire during a nurses' strike not long after. The building, along with its records and many patients, was consumed and destroyed. On his high school graduation day, Wimpy Wish packed what he could fit into his Mercury and prepared to head west. Wimpy Wish, whose real name was Oliver Wish, was given the name after being the only of-age boy in Tyler to not enlist and support the war effort. A spitfire of a young man, he set his sights on California. There, he told everyone, he'd find his fortune. On this particular day, the California Day as he would call it in his retellings, he stopped at a service station in town for fuel. There he witnessed two men, both substantially bigger than Wimpy Wish, accosting a young woman. They corner her against a dumpster. He went blind with rage, pulled his belt out, struck one man across the face, and choked the other until he turned blue. Heaving, shaking, and wondering what he'd just done, he looked to the woman who'd fallen against the dumpster. According to Wimpy Wish, when he saw Leanne, God spoke to him and said,
Look at them yams, Wimpy Wish.
Leanne McCall was fierce. Wimpy Wish had misread the situation, and she was actually assaulting the men. They owed her money from a card game she ran. Nonetheless, when love strikes, it strikes, and the story stuck. Wimpy Wish was a hero. Every paper in Texas recounted his story, and people would yell, "Wimpy Wish!" as far as Nacogdoches. He and Leanne were married within the month. Wimpy Wish forgot all about California and used his notoriety to open a chain of convenience stores. By the mid-1940s, there were Wimpy's all across Texas, and the first big Wimpy's, a proper grocery supercenter, had opened its doors in Dallas. Boston Lettuce purchased Wimpy's for a hefty sum just after the war. Part of the sale required that the Wimp himself stay on for a few years to ensure a smooth transition. Wimpy Wish, not yet a father and even considered a young husband for the time, set off with his wife Leanne and settled in Braintree. They had 3 children: James Wish, the middle sister Donna Wish, and the youngest, Kyle Wish. James Wish and Donna Wish were only a couple years apart, tall, burly, and hair so blonde it was almost white. Together, on the family's sprawling estate, they would play elaborate games, climb trees, and get lost in the woods, only to be saved by the dinner bell. Having inherited the entrepreneurial spirit from their father, James Wish and Donna Wish began charging their friends to attend their elaborate setup. They called it Wish Upon a Yard, and in just a decade, it became the most prominent outdoor place-based farm in the Northeast. Bigger than Coney Island in Brooklyn, Dumplin' Farm in Vermont, Handkerchief Estates in Philly, and Jim's Dirt Hole in Martha's Vineyard. It wasn't long before Wish Upon a Yard gobbled them up. The company name was eventually shortened to Wish Farms. Kyle Wish, the youngest member of the Wish family by, as his father would say, a horse's dong, was less cunning than his siblings. Although he took after his father physically, small arms, light brown, almost green hair, he lacked Wimpy Wish's fire and ambition. Siblings James Wish and Donna Wish took care of their brother Kyle the best they could. He was given small but essential tasks, like tending to their schedules, feeding the pets, and arranging travel accommodations. He was too small to ride most of the rides, even as a man. Kyle Wish wasn't too bright, but people liked him. In Wimpy Wish's later years, it was Kyle who he preferred to spend time with in the garden. Dad? He asked one day, breaking the noontime silence that had weighed over the garden all summer since Wimpy Wish's terminal diagnosis. What is it? He shot back. An ornate plate of deviled eggs sat before him, untouched. He thought September was too late, seasonally speaking, for deviled eggs. James and Donna have a meeting in Los Angeles tomorrow to open up a new farm, the first one in California, and they said they wanted me to be there. It's tomorrow. This was somewhat true. Sure, James Wish and Donna Wish already purchased a flight for their CFO, who dropped out at the last minute. The ticket was non-refundable. I don't care. Wimpy Wish stopped himself short of being cruel. He saw it in Kyle Wish's eyes that he really wanted to go, and took a lot of courage for him to even ask. Go ahead, little buddy. It'll be okay. You're gonna love it there. Thanks, Dad. I've never been to L.A., and neither have James and Donna. They're excited, even though they won't say it. Have you ever been? Wimpy Wish stared off into the garden. A couple of birds rested atop a St. Francis statue. They looked like they were arguing. Leanne was kicked by a horse 10 years prior and died on the spot. He still missed her so much. No, I haven't. You'll have to let me know how it is. The Wish family didn't leave home often. James Wish and Donna Wish were highly superstitious. They refused to travel together. Kyle Wish knew this because he was always in charge of booking travel, even if it was by car or train. The next morning followed the usual routine. James Wish and Donna Wish awoke in their childhood bedrooms at 4 a.m. sharp and flipped through the manila envelope Kyle Wish slipped under their door hours earlier. There was an issue with the printer, and Kyle finished the itinerary later than usual. The two siblings met in the kitchen for coffee, dressed in their standard black. They briefly discussed the agenda for Los Angeles and departed in separate SUVs. James Wish flew American, and Donna Wish flew United. They hated Logan International. The design needed to be corrected. The way the sun came through the window, especially on beautiful days like the one before them, was intrusive. Not to mention the lack of security. Kyle Wish overslept and had yet to pack. It was 6 a.m. His flight was at 7-something, he thought. There was no way he could make it to the airport in time. He stopped in front of his father's room. He wanted to say goodbye. Kyle Wish tiptoed into the warm room and hugged his father, who faced away from him. He didn't respond. Dad? He half yelled. The alarm continued to blare from his room. Kyle Wish panicked and ran out of the house, clothes in hand. The only option was his father's old Mercury. The engine was as good as gold, but lacked amenities. Manual locks and windows, no radio, that sort of thing. He floored it out of the driveway and didn't stop unless he needed gas. He visited filling stations at night and didn't sleep once. He knew James Wish and Donna Wish would be disappointed that he missed his flight, but when they saw his commitment, they'd have no choice but to acknowledge it. He understood that the new Wish farm was supposed to be in Santa Monica, so he drove the Mercury for 46 hours until he hit Ocean Avenue. Kyle Wish parked and walked toward the beach. He'd never been this far from home. The sand was different than the East Coast. The sun was too. It wasn't better, it was just a different sun. He was sure James Wish and Donna Wish weren't coming. He'd seen some stuff on TV at a pilot outside of Columbus. He didn't know more than what some of the pictures showed him, and some words at the bottom of the screen. There was talk of war in the spring. It was going to be dark soon. The beach emptied. He could finally hear the waves. A man dressed in old military clothes and sunglasses approached Kyle Wish from behind. He gently tapped him on the shoulder. Kyle Wish turned, tears welling in his eyes. The man put his hand on Kyle Wish's shoulder and asked, "Are you okay, brother?" "This story must be told."